Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Monday. Well, wherever your Monday is, I hope it's doing you good, and it's good to have you amongst the living. And you're looking good. Um, Loving this day. I've been actually doing two projects where I didn't actually had a whole lot of time of putting my notes together, but this subject I know very, very well. Hello, Deborah Tucker. How are you doing? Good to see you. Warrior Princess, hello. Raven Wolf, how are you doing? Looking forward to seeing you on Friday night. Jerry, how the heck are you? Good to see you. Marcia, shoots for par. Always the cope there. I always like that. Merritt, hello. Lori, hello. How are you? Jason, Sandra, how are you? Laura, knowledge seeker, boy, it's getting a full house. So, how was your weekend? I don't know about you, but ours was fabulous. It snowed, it got like really cold, and that's my kind of weather. Used to be in my youth, I was much more into summertime. Goes to show you, you just change. So, hey everyone, I am reading a new book. This is really one interesting book. It's called The Gnostic Religion, The Message of an Alien God, and the Beginnings of Christianity. I tell you what, makes one wonder, does it not, when you begin to really peel back the layers and you start really finding out where the roots are. Little anecdote here. So back in my youth, living with my father, we weren't real prosperous. We grew all of our own food. And my brother and I, along with three other half stepsisters and brothers, um, Guy and I, we literally weeded that garden. It was almost a half acre in total size from one end to the other. And down there in the Texas Gulf Plains, where we grew up at, in a little town called Genoa, uh, hot. I'm talking hot. But it wasn't this type of hot, the sun we have today. My brother and I had some of the best tans. We were definitely towheads. But I digress on the whole point of this. There was a weed that we learned to call what they called devil root, because the root went all the way down to hell. And you understand principles even at that age. And one of the principles I learned at the young age of 10 was the principle of sowing and then harvesting. We folks, if some of you knew, I mean, what my brother and I did, we moved a ton of trash by hand, literally by hand, and then we had to clear out all this honeysuckle and this hedge growth. And after nearly a year and a half of very hard work. And for kids, we didn't have playtime. We made our own playtime while we were working. But you learn things about life. And so the thing that you learn is that no matter how well the intentions are, the weeds are going to get in. And why do weeds get in? Well, because sometimes we don't even see the seed. It happens sometimes by what seems osmosis. How could I want to put this? How many of you have ever seen a mustard seed? I'm looking in the chat room right now. We're going to have a more of an interactive time. I think the chat is on slow, so I can see what's going on here. So hello, skies above. How many of you know what a mustard seed looks like. Brad, how are you doing? Well, for those who cannot remember or don't, this is a mustard seed, folks. Let me get the camera. There you go. So there you go. You see how tiny that seed? And this is really not the smallest of seeds that you can use in seasoning. But this one is one people know so well by the parable, the size of a mustard seed. You only need this small. This is the amount, according to how I was raised. That's all you need for faith is a mustard seed. Just that size, and that size alone, you can move mountains. Everything is with a seed. Everything. We got here because of the seed principle. And if you didn't, then let me know. I mean, that would be a great interview, no doubt. So I've seen so many emails this weekend, literally hundreds. I try to get to the ones who are asking for the favor cleansing, and then I try to get back in order of reading the stories that many of you write. And I'm seeing two things happening here. I'm seeing those who have grabbed a hold of the cleansing ceremony. And I have a sense why it's manifesting so quickly in their lives is because their expectation is equal to their perception. There's a balance there. And when you get expectation and perception out of balance, you got a train wreck coming. I used to teach sales, and what I'd always talk to new account executives was that they had to begin to master balancing in the customer's eyes that the expectation is equal to the perception. The other thing I taught them is that people aren't looking for reasons to be sold. What they're seeking is affirmation as to why they're buying. And that's how it is for you and I, even in our spiritual journey. We seek affirmation for that which we're pursuing. You don't need anyone proselytizing you. Most people at this point and who are in this community and group have figured that out. We know that. But getting back to the two groups that I'm seeing, and the other group is struggling. And I know why they're struggling. When you get into a cycle, it becomes very difficult to break. And these cycles can be passed down to generation to generation. One of the most interesting experiences in my journey thus far was when I lived in Tennessee. I lived in Nashville and in Knoxville. And while I lived in Knoxville, I got to know the people of Appalachia. In fact, my sales territory included all of Appalachia. And so I did a lot of miles driving. Road warrior, I was. But I was always, top in my field. And the thing that I found about the people of Appalachia was very difficult to break the cycle that has been imprinted upon their souls and regrettably, their spirit as well. They are taught that there is only so far you can go. And I could go on, but it's that mentality. And they're very poor. I mean, there's some places, folks, back there in Western Kentucky and Western Virginia that, yeah, they're poor, folks. And for them, it's normal. They see what happens in the outside world, but for them, their culture is more a part of them than reaching beyond. I know this from experience. And the other thing that I have found in life is that people, when they get into need, whatever the situation may be, whatever, most of us have been in that place. And many people live in that place. And when the need becomes so great, what one will begin to think, well, is all I need is money. Money would solve this problem. And that's not true. In fact, it's the last thing you need. There have been countless stories of those who have won lotteries that by percentage, a great deal of them end up in two places: dead or broke again. And you ask yourself, well, how can someone who wins a lottery become broke? Very easily. They never fixed the whole problem to begin with. And they got money. But as they sadly learned, that wasn't what was needed. And so what I tried to teach here are life lessons that, as I now see it, I've experienced this, folks. 1996, I was homeless, folks. I had made a ton of money. I'm smart. I've always known that. And along come a sickness. And through a set of series of events, well, I ended up literally on the street. And what do you do then? Well, you look to the kindness of friends, family, but sometimes that isn't there, is it? And then you begin to find yourself relying on strangers, because what you were trying to do in this whole process is learn to rely on yourself, and that's where it begins to get tumbling. Now, the difference between myself and who knows, in an infinite realities, maybe another me in a distant alternative reality, is that I had and I knew some principles. I knew some things that at the time I did not know that they were Hermetic principles. Didn't know, as many of you are finding out. We practiced them by osmosis. We knew them instinctively. There's a reason for that. Hermes said it. I didn't say it. We're the ones who have been granted the vision. Now, you can interpret that however you want, but that's what Hermes speaks about. So I knew some principles. Now, what I knew was the principle of seed time and harvest. Now, when you're used to having the credit cards, the new cars, the ability to be free in a very totalitarian reality, that's what capitalism is. Communism, socialism, it was all an ism. That's the problem. Isms we got, we don't need. And so I knew something others didn't know. Now, I had favor in my life from the beginning. I knew the word favor. It came into my consciousness back in my teenage years. But as I progressed through the cycle of life, favor was always there. I didn't recognize it. That's too much of a smartass, you know. But that's the great thing about youth. Youth makes us feel invincible. And I think that's kind of cool. You know, in the Islam religion, they believe that if you make it into heaven, you are going to be forever at the age of 33. I can dig that. I can see where they can come up with that. But nevertheless, I knew some principles. Now, I grew up with people like Napoleon Hill, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar. I could just go on and name about another 4 or 5 that I listen to. Now, I love music. I'm a rock and roller. I love classical music. I have an eclectic taste. My library. When I leave, it's going to my iTunes category, trust me, is a treasure trove. But the point is, when I would travel, I listened to cassette tapes. That's what we had back then. And wore out many of a series. And what I didn't know was that it was training my spirit. It was also disciplining my soul, and I was a rebel. If you go by the definition of the book of Proverbs, what a fool is, it's not a foolish person. A fool in the book of Proverbs is literally translated a rebel. That's what it means. And those of us rebels out there, and I know I'm not alone in this group, oh, the stories we could tell, as Jimmy Buffett sang on his first album. And but anyway, my spirit would begin to get this in. Now, what I did not realize, folks, was that my subconscious was being sown the seeds. And that's what they are. They're seeds of thought. And who'd have known that decades later, when you lose everything, how do you rebuild? Well, I'll tell you the key right now. The key to all of your money problems, to all of your lack issues, to your relationship issues, is the principle of seed time and harvest. And they're amply examined in the 7 principles. First principle is what? Mentalization. Second principle, what? Correspondence. Third principle, what? Vibration. Fourth principle is polarity. Then you have rhythm. And then you have cause and effect and gender. Hello, 1111, how you doing? So, it's older than me, older than all of us combined in this little chat room, those that are watching. So, what is it? Well, I commented to a person on, I think it was yesterday's program, and I wrote to her. It's there for everyone to see. And she was bold, and I love people who are bold and brave. You have not because you ask not. So she made a request to the cosmos, to the all, and explaining how one thing after the another was just another need that wasn't being met. Had to have money for this, didn't have money for this. This broke down, didn't have money for that. Now, I saw that comment last night, and I knew it wasn't the right time for me to respond, because what she needs help. She needs a solution. She needs not only an immediate solution, but she needs, more importantly, a solution to fix the problem. Now, I'll share some stories with you. In my business life, I've had people that were betrayers. I mean, flat out lie to you to your face, and invoke the name of Jesus and pray, and, the whole bit, covenant type of thing. Yeah. And, in relationships, those marriages where the spouse cheats, it's not the fact that they cheated, it's the betrayal. That's what hurts. In fact, as we go through life, we encounter so much betrayal. And it starts out when we're children. Friends, best friends forever. We grow through life like that. So when you see these things, it starts a cycle. And what I have learned in life, with most people, there's a hurt. There's an unidentified hurt in their life that hasn't been dealt with. I don't know what it is. I mean, when I talk to people, pretty much, we can get to the bottom of it. But I could give you a check right now for $10,000. It's only going to suffice for the moment. I'll guarantee you'll be right back in the same position again. It's a spirit you're dealing with. It's a thought spirit, poverty, lack, insufficient, not enough, struggle, can't get by. I mean, our language is replete with it. And it's tied into a much bigger mainframe. And today, most measure success by an imaginary dollar amount. You ask people, what is rich? What does it mean for you to be rich? And you'll get as many different definitions. Now, the smart ones will tell you, I don't need money. What I need is knowledge, understanding. If I can get those formulas, then the rest will take care of itself. Where can I purchase a Steiger hoodie? Brad, I'll talk to my wife. She's the one that ordered them. So it has to start with an examination of why you're where you're at. Now, this principle of seed time, the blessing, the cleansing for favor, you have to understand that you have to have these issues settled. It's hard for you to invoke favor on another person when you have a wound that has festered years, decades. And the problem with a festering wound is that it spreads, the contamination. And before you know it, what you see as normal is really a contaminated view. So I've heard people say, well, how do I get there? And I tell them all the time, what have you been sowing? Now, obviously, we can say in life that there are just some things that we can attribute to what today's society say is just a series of bad breaks, bad luck. There is no such thing as luck. Cause and effect rules that out. And the law of correspondence just simply means it hasn't been disciplined into a law. So, what have you been sowing? Now, I contend, I know this works. When you go from 0 to less than 0 to where you're at that place of satisfaction, and it works for whoever applies it. If you begin to take a seed mentality, and that's what the favor invocation does, you're transferring, you're transmutating what is a negative charge, you're transmuting that energy to the very thing that you need in your life. Now, if you need money, the best way to get money is to sow a seed of money. Now, people will say, well, if I had money, I'd sow a seed. Well, let me tune you in to something here. Let's get real serious. You have one lifetime. Now, whether you believe what that, let's just talk about the now. And if you were to weigh it on the scale, what is the most valuable aspect of yourself? How could you say very succinctly, this represents me and it's valuable? It's your time, sweetheart. Your time. It's your time. Nobody else's. The book, the record is being kept on your time. And however long that time is, it has extreme value to it. Now, take something that has extreme value and you start sowing in other people's lives. Let's say you bake some cookies for someone. Maybe bake them and go hand them out to those in need. Maybe mow someone's yard. Maybe trim their bushes. Do something if you don't have the money. In fact, even if you do, I would recommend you do this. And sow your time as a gift. It's favor what you're really doing to this other person. And that's your seed. That seed will grow. Now, the thing that you have got to do is to make sure you do not kill your seed. To me, people eat their seeds. They see just the beginning, and because they never pursued it further, they never allowed it to germinate. The only way you can learn it to germinate is that you have to give it good ground to grow in. And bitterness, unforgiveness, always in a lack mentality. I've got to get mine so, I can survive. And, when you get this mob mentality, you see in natural disasters, people come in and they start looting. What are they looting for? It's a mentality. It's a spiritual deficit. If that is where that soul is at, I contend there's probably no spirit there. because you're feeding on the misery. And you have this mentality of materialism is somehow or another equated to happiness, somehow equated to being satisfied. And it isn't going to work. Got the wrong chemical base. We don't need an alkaline base. You see what I'm saying? But you sow that seed into whoever's life it is. It's got something to work with. Then you've got to get into disciplining the thought. And it's the thoughts that will sabotage you every freaking time. In fact, most of us, we sabotage ourselves. We set ourselves up to fail. And then when we fail, the cycle is renewed, because then you get into the self-doubt, the self-bad talk, and now you're sinning. Now you really are sinning, because you're speaking against the divine. And if you begin to realize that you're a queen, you're a king, you are divine, brother and sisters, I'm telling you, it changes your charge, your aurora. It changes. And you can grow very quickly from a place of lack to a place of being satisfied. Again, I go back that most people can't define what rich is. I'll tell you what rich is. It's a state of mind. That's all it is. No one owns anything. Jeff Bezos is a poor man. Unfortunately, his spirit, by his actions, would say that he has sold out. He's probably going to be recycled back through. Because you see, having things is not what you need. You need a place where you are satisfied. And most people can't define what satisfied is. Can you? Right now, can you? You can't. Most people cannot define. They can't define even the simplest of concepts in a reality that we're in, where materialism ranks supreme. It is the God. It is. It's the God who everyone prays to in the churches today. It's not this mythical, biblical God. It's the God of materialism. And if you don't believe me, they would never pass the offering plate. Why would you need to take an offering from people if you're serving a God who can meet all your needs according to his riches and glory? The only ones I've ever seen getting rich in Christianity were the ones at the pulpit. Now let's get back to us here. The principle is very simple. Once that you find that place and you understand why you got where you are. Now we're going to jump into Franz's book here in a second, but you have to identify it. You need, folks, call it your magic diary, call it whatever. You need these. You should be writing in it every day. And the next exercise we're going to get into is let's start finding out what the problem is. Because there's a problem. If you've got lack in your life, there's a problem. And it isn't always money, what I'm talking about. It could be lack of fulfillment of a relationship, companionship, inner dynamics with others. Lack isn't financial. In fact, I contend most people lack spiritually. We substitute religion as a means to get there. So let's just jump over here real quick. This is Franz's book. As you can see, Initiation into Hermetics. Mastery of Thoughts. Now, you should be up to the point where by now, you should be up to 30 minutes. In fact, if you're doing this right, whatever your key word is or phrase, you should find it coming up without you even thinking about it. If that's happening, then you're ready to go on to the next one. So once you've mastered this exercise, you can proceed with the next exercise. We will learn now to produce a complete vacancy of mind. Relax your entire body by lying comfortably on a sofa or bed, by sitting in a comfortable chair. Close your eyes. Vigorously reject any thought that attacks you. Nothing must be permitted to appear in your spirit or mind. Only complete mental vacancy should prevail. Then maintain this vacant state of mind without digressing or forgetting yourself. In the beginning, you will succeed, but for only a few seconds. However, through repeated practice, you will become more successful. Once you have succeeded in remaining in this state for a full 10 minutes without forgetting yourself or falling asleep, I've had people that says, when I started this, I'll listen to your voice, and the next thing, I'm waking up. Well, there's a reason for that. But in this case, that's what the frequency of my voice, that's what it does. It will calm most people. But here you want to pinch yourself. Then the purpose of this exercise has been achieved. And folks, if money is having a fat bank account is your goal, this will do it. However, I would suggest you don't use your magic for that. There are a lot of spirits that I could give you right now to invoke that would be more than happy, if that's what you want, to get you there. But believe me, you don't want to go there. You don't. Now, carefully record all of your successes, and this is critical. If you skip over this, you could do the other exercises, but if you've ever played Jenga, you've left a support out. So record all of your successes, failures, duration of your exercises, and interruptions or disturbances in a magical diary. Details follow in the chapter Magical Schooling of the Soul. This diary will give the student the means to examine his own ascent. The more conscientiously the student maintains these records, the better and more successful he or she will be with the exercises that follow. Prepare a specific schedule for tomorrow or for the coming week and practice self-criticism. Now, hell, we all have PhDs in this one. Seriously, we could have the whole graduating ceremony right now, but that's the problem. So we're going to go to the next step and see how we can begin to deal with this. The Magical School of the Soul, Introspection, Self cognizance. In our abode, which is our body and soul, we must find our way about at all times. This is why the first task is to know oneself. How far does it go back? Know thyself. This condition is required by all systems of initiation, regardless of what kind. There will be no true ascent without self-cognizance. During the first days of soul schooling, we will occupy ourselves with the practice of introspection, the examination or observation of our characteristics. Record all the negative characteristics of your soul in a magical diary. This diary is strictly for your own use, folks. You let someone else see your diary, don't do that. There's a reason for this. And under no circumstance should it be shown to anyone else. It is a so-called control book. This is why. When practicing self-control, you have to be pitiless and strict with yourself when it comes to your shortcomings, failings, and habits, passions, urges, and any other negative character traits. Be unrelenting towards yourself and do not glorify any of your failings or shortcomings. Meditate and contemplate about yourself. Place yourself in different situations of your past and consider how you behaved, taking note of the various failings and shortcomings which arose while you were in this situation. Record all weaknesses in their finest nuances and variations. The more you discover, the better. Nothing should remain hidden. Everything should be unveiled, whether the failings and weaknesses be significant or insignificant. Students that are especially gifted have discovered hundreds of failings in the finest nuances. These students have the ability of meditating properly and penetrating profoundly into their own souls. Wash your soul completely clean and sweep out all the filth. This self-analysis is one of the most important parts of magical preparatory work. Many occult systems neglect these important requirements. That is why they have only limited success. This psychic or astral preparatory work is the most important component in achieving magical equilibrium. Without it, a consistent ascent in your development is not possible. Devote a few minutes to self-criticism each morning and every evening. Should you have a few free moments during the day, make use of them. Contemplate intensively as to whether some failings still lurk in hiding somewhere. Should you discover some, record them immediately so that they do not fall victim or fall into oblivion. Whenever you discover a shortcoming, do not hesitate, but record it immediately. Should you not be successful in discovering all your shortcomings or failings within a week, then devote another week to your research until your registry of sins is complete. Should you be able to complete it in 1 or 2 weeks, then move on to the next exercise. Through deep and intensive contemplation, try to assign each of your negative characteristics to one of the 4 elements. In your magical diary, allow a column or a page for each of the 4 elements, under which you record your shortcomings. Should you not be certain which element or characteristic should be assigned to, add another category with the heading indifferent. Eventually, as you advance in your development, you will be able to determine which element a characteristic belongs. For example, the following are negative characteristics: fire element, quick temper, jealousy, hate, vengefulness, anger. The air element, thoughtfulness, boastfulness, self-conceit, gossip, wastefulness, the water element, indifference, apathy, cold-heartedness, acquiescence, carelessness, shyness, defiance, inconsistency, the earth element, being easily offended, laziness, irresponsibility, preponderousness, melancholy, inconsistency. In the following week, meditate on each characteristic in the above-mentioned categories and divide them again into 3 groups and record them in your magical diary. Group 1, those negative characteristics that influence you the most and create the greatest problems, even under the most trivial circumstances. Group 2, negative characteristics that occur less frequently and have less of an influence. Finally, in group 3, negative characteristics that occur infrequently and have little influence upon you. This also applies to the category of indifferent. Be conscientious when recording them, as it is definitely worthwhile. Everything has to be done in the same form and manner when it comes to positive psychic characteristics. They have to be divided in accordance with the elements, the category with the heading indifferent, and the 3 groups. Here are some examples of positive characteristics. Under the fire element, activity, enthusiasm, determination, daring, courage. Air, diligence, joy, proficiency, kind-heartedness, propensity to work, optimism. Water, humbleness, modesty, abstinence, artisticity, compassion, tranquility, peace, contentment, forgiveness, tenderness. Earth, respect, perseverance, conscientiousness, thoroughness, circumspection, soberness, prudence, punctuality, sense of responsibility. Through these exercises, you will attain 2 astral soul mirrors, a black, which represents all your negative astral characteristics, and one white, with your good and noble characteristics. These 2 magic mirrors are considered to be actual occult mirrors, and no one but the proprietor has the right to view himself in these mirrors. I should mention again that it is important that the proprietor of these mirrors must work conscientiously and precisely on them so that the final result is a true magic mirror. Should you, in the course of your development, encounter any more good or bad, positive or negative characteristics, add them to your existing records. These 2 magic mirrors give the magician the ability to accurately determine which element in the black or white mirror is predominant. This knowledge is absolutely necessary in order to reach your magical equilibrium. All your future development depends upon it. All right, we'll stop right there. So what do y'all think? I'll tell you why this exercise is necessary. You will encounter opposition as many of you graduate and become your own master magicians. You're going to find opposing forces. The greatest weakness any demon or devil has against a person is their faults. Those things we don't talk about. Those things we don't share. That's the only thing. And if you become so versed and not only identifying, but using the 6th principle, you become a master. It'll take something very powerful to be able to come against you. And you need this in the next plane. You do. So, there you go. It's one step after another. And I mean, it's just here. If you don't like it, this doesn't resonate with you, that's cool. You don't have to do it. Observe. There's nothing wrong with being an observer. I used to be, heavily in NASCAR, worked and helped raise funding for the teams. But, you know, I went to the Richard Petty driving school. Got no desire to be in those cars. No. Mm-mm. I'd be more than happy to be an observer. And if that's what you want to do, then that's cool. You're still learning. But for those who go through it, it's an initiation. That's what we're learning here. Okay. Has this been fun? I'm telling you, this is how you can be in that perpetual state of consciousness. And what I'm trying to drive the point here today is by planting the seed gives you the focus. It gives you the opportunity to crystallize that. By going through these exercises, your enemy, your demons, your devils can't attack you. They've got no power, no control. Are you getting it? This is why it's important. You break this spiritual hold over you and you become master of it, things change almost magically. Why? Because it has to. It can't defy the 7 principles. It can't. No spirit, no God, no demon, no demiurge, no nothing. And this is how you always see the movies when the demon, right, is being exorcised. You always hear, well, I know what you did. Well, there's a thing called familiar spirits. Don't let that kind of that's pother room crap. Recognize the fact that there are what we call familiar spirits. They've known you our whole life. They watch you all the time, even when you think no one's watching. And so what happens when you develop your code book, your control book, they don't have anything to come against you with. Nothing. You strip them and they'll run. They're cowards. They always have been, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. Oh, all right, folks. I hope this has been fun. I hope it's been educational. It'll change your life. And it's not me. It's just the way it is. So, all righty. Tonight we have Dr. Claudia Valvers. It's going to be fun. Lots of strange stuff going on. And, as the weirdness in the heavens continue and in our earth and everything else around us, my friends, you got to get this down in you. You will become a pillar to those around you. They'll look to you for that strength. And you'll become the teacher. You're going to be able to pass on these secrets. Because they're going to ask you, how did you get your life? I knew you before. You're not the same person anymore. What's happening here? You smile, pat them on the head, give them a hug. You'll tell them that,
relax, calm down now. Don't stress. Take it easy.
That's what you'll be telling them. And so, so everyone, be good. Talk to you here in about, 6 hours. It looks like thereabouts. We're going to continue on this. It doesn't stop. I'm just going to share with you what I've lived. I know this works. You get the strangest things. You'll get a letter in the mail. Congratulations, Mr. Steiger. You'll get something that just comes out of the blue. And you give immediate recognition and gratitude. Never be ungrateful. Always give thanksgiving to whatever it is that you believe in. The universe, the cosmos watches. And those who have a receptive and grateful heart, it's just like you. I mean, do you want to give something and, favor them to a person who's just a real jerk? Well, you got to love them. Well, maybe some. But seriously, no. So make yourself lovable. How many of you say in the mirror, you look good? And do it when you're naked. Someone said, I love the comment. Well, this will be an experience going around the house naked, talking about the cleansing ceremony. But and by the way, those of you who have allergies to smoke, the smoke part of that, I think there's actually smokeless incense. But listen, know your body. And it's not going to nullify the ritual. It's not going to, the invocation will still go on. They know that. They get it. And some of you who are modest, hey, suck it up, cupcake. You were born that way. You know what? Probably when you die, you're going to be naked as well. So, hey, get used to it. All right, folks, I appreciate you. Namaste to all of you. Be good to yourself. Learn to love yourself. And trust me, you'll become lovable to others as well. They'll flock to you. They'll just say, man, I just want to get a hug from you. You say, yeah, that's cool. I'll give some of it. So, all right, folks, appreciate you all. We'll see you this evening with Dr. Claudia Albers. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, folks, thank you for joining me. It's what a journey. Another episode in Wayne's World, huh? All right, bye-bye, folks.